Do you have problems with the transmission? It may not be the transmission itself, but the transmission control device that causes problems. For this reason, we are examining the symptoms of a defective transmission control device today. The main function of a TCM is to monitor sensors in the transmission and to enable communication with the ECM to ensure a good shift time. In addition, it receives data from various input sensors such as ZB, the throttle valve sensor, the TPS sensor, the temperature sensor, and the turbine speed sensor. By processing this input data, the TCM determines the appropriate time for the transmission switches. If your TCM fails, it can trigger code diagnosis errors such as P0700, one of the most common TCM-related codes. A malfunction of the TCM can be caused by various factors, including torn cables, software errors, internal corrosion, cracks, or even a loose bracket, which leads to unwanted vibrations. The location of the TCM varies depending on the vehicle. It is usually somewhere in the engine compartment or even in the interior of the transmission. Often there are also places behind the armature board, under the air filter, next to the battery on the transmission, or even under the steering wheel. If your TCM fails, you will notice different symptoms again. It can lead to severe shift processes, delayed shift processes, difficulties when shifting down, sliding of the gearbox, and the most common symptom, emergency mode. Let's take a closer look at the individual symptoms. Symptom number 1. The engine control light is glowing. Here are some diagnostic error codes that can occur. P0613, P0700, P0706. These codes are a simple starting point to determine whether your TCM is defective. P0613 points to a possible problem with the TCM processor and lets an internal error in the TCM close. P0700 means a general malfunction of the transmission control system, which indicates a certain transmission problem. Finally, P0706 points out a fault in the circuit of the transmission sensor and lets the sensor close on a problem that determines the gear position. These codes can be a helpful diagnostic tool for you to start working. Symptom number 2. The car switches to emergency mode. Emergency mode is activated as a protective measure for you and your vehicle. When it is activated, your car can only shift in second or third gear and the speed is limited. Emergency mode is a safety feature that limits the speed to about second gear. However, you should also check other components that may cause similar symptoms before you come to the conclusion that the transmission control device is defective. Symptom number 3. Unpredictable shifting. While driving, you may notice that your vehicle is shifting either too early or too late, which is accompanied by a feeling of hard shifting processes. This irregular shifting pattern can indicate a defective transmission control device. It occurs when the transmission control unit does not receive accurate sensor data or commands, which leads to a wrong time for gear change. Such symptoms can disturb the smooth operation of the transmission of your vehicle and possibly lead to further problems with the transmission control unit. Symptom number 4. High fuel consumption. The transmission control unit optimized the engine performance by allowing the gears to shift at the exact right time. However, if the TCM becomes inconsistent in its shifting patterns, it can force the engine to work harder than necessary, which can lead to reduced fuel efficiency. This increased workload not only leads to higher fuel consumption, but also to more frequent trips to the gas station. Symptom number 5. Thermal load. Thermal load means repeated expansion and contraction of solder joints on the plate due to temperature fluctuations. If the plate is exposed to rapid temperature changes such as heating and cooling, the solder joints expand accordingly over time and contract. This cyclical load can lead to the formation of cracks in the solder joints, which contribute to the malfunction of the TCM. These cracks affect the electrical connections within the TCM and affect its functionality, which leads to various symptoms that are in connection with a TCM failure. Symptom number 6. Switching the vehicle into idle. While driving, it may occur that your vehicle switches into idle unexpectedly for no apparent reason. This sudden change in idle while driving may indicate a defective TCM. If it fails, it can send false signals to the transmission and lead to it accidentally switching into idle. This problem can pose a great safety risk, as it can lead to loss of vehicle control and dangerous driving situations. If you notice this symptom, let your vehicle check for the diagnosis and recovery of the problem immediately. Symptom number 7. The TCM is poorly placed and poorly constructed. There are TCMs that are mounted directly on the transmission itself. This can be a problematic place, especially if water is sprayed on it during the ride. This moisture impact can lead to a premature loss of the TCM. If the TCM is mounted in the engine compartment but is positioned far from the engine, it can also be susceptible to various environmental influences that can lead to a failure. However, if the TCM is in the cabin ZBB, behind the armature board or in the center console, it is more protected and safer, which reduces the likelihood of a premature failure due to external elements. How much would it cost to exchange a TCM? The cost for the exchange of a defective TCM can vary depending on factors such as year of construction, brand and model of your car, the working costs in your region, and the question whether you want to have the exchange done by a dealer or an independent repair shop. On average, the costs for a new TCM are between $200 and $500, while the working costs for the installation are usually between $100 and $300. The total costs for exchanging a defective TCM can range between $300 and $800. Therefore, turn to a mechanic or trader of your trust to get a precise advance on your situation. Also, make sure that your TCM is programmed in a proper way and that it is adjusted to your vehicle. Without proper reprogramming, the new TCM does not work properly. The alignment of the serial number is also important for compatibility, as non-aligned serial numbers can lead to compatibility problems and the TCM may not work as intended. Here you have the general symptoms that indicate a defective TCM. If you notice one of these signs on your car, let it be checked on the street for your safety. And if you find videos like this helpful, please give us a like and subscribe to the channel so that we can help you with the repair.